Picture this. It is 15,000 years ago, long before clocks, long before glowing screens. There is no alarm, no buzzing phone on a nightstand, no radio voice announcing the hour. And yet, somehow, an entire community wakes up together, near the same moment, ready to hunt, to gather, to move. How did they do it? How did ancient humans wake up on time without a single alarm? The answer is stranger and more beautiful than you might expect, because the alarm was never on the wall. It was hidden inside their own bodies the whole time. Let us start with the machine you carry everywhere and never think about. Deep inside your brain, just above the point where your eyes connect, sits a tiny cluster of cells. Scientists call it the suprachiasmatic nucleus, but you can just call it the body clock. It is smaller than a grain of rice, only about 20,000 neurons. Yet it keeps time for every organ you own. It tells your heart when to slow, your gut when to rest, and your muscles when to wake. There is even a dedicated nerve, a private wire running straight from the eye to this little clock, carrying one message only, and that message is about light. Your ancient ancestors had this exact same clock, ticking away in the dark, wired to their eyes in exactly the same way, and it is the real reason they could rise with the day. Here is the amazing part. This clock does not run on exactly 24 hours. Left alone in a cave with no light, it drifts, usually a little longer than a day. So it needs something to correct it, to reset it every morning, to pull it back in line with the turning planet. And the thing that resets it is light. Not just any light, but the first pale light of dawn, sliding over the horizon while the world is still half asleep. Think about how a morning actually begins in the wild. It does not switch on like a lamp. Long before the sun clears the hills, the sky begins to change. The black softens to deep blue, then to gray, then to a cool silver. This early glow is rich in blue wavelengths, the exact color your body clock is tuned to notice. Special cells in the back of the eye, discovered only recently, are not for seeing shapes at all. Their only job is to measure light and whisper to the brain, "Morning is coming, wake the body up." And your body was already preparing. In the last hours of sleep, something quietly shifts. Your temperature, which dropped during the night, begins to climb again. A hormone called cortisol rises in a sharp wave, peaking right around the moment you wake. Scientists call this the cortisol awakening response, and it is like an internal engine revving before the day begins. At the same time, melatonin, the hormone of darkness and sleep, drains away. There is a rhythm to your body heat as well. Your core temperature reaches its lowest point in the small hours before dawn, and then it starts to swing upward, and that rising warmth is part of what carries you toward waking. Your ancestors felt all of this without a name for any of it. They simply felt themselves surfacing, floating up from sleep as the cave mouth turned from black to gray. And here is something that surprises people. The light of an ordinary morning outdoors is far brighter than any lamp indoors. A dim room might give you a few hundred units of light, but stepping outside at dawn floods your eyes with thousands, and by full daylight, tens of thousands. Your ancestors lived bathed in that flood every single day, so their clocks were reset hard and clean each morning, locked tightly to the real sun. Modern scientists have tested this in living hunter-gatherer communities, groups who still sleep under the open sky with no electric light. They found that these people fall asleep a few hours after dusk and wake up near dawn, right around the coldest part of the night, and they do it consistently, night after night, with no alarm and no clock. Their sleep simply tracks the sun. So the first great secret is simply this. Ancient humans woke with the light because their bodies were built to. But light was not the only alarm ringing across the ancient morning. The world outside was singing. If you have ever camped far from a city, you know the sound. It is called the dawn chorus, and it is one of the oldest alarm clocks on Earth. In the last darkness before sunrise, birds begin to sing, and they do not sing at random. There is an order to it. Robins and other early risers start first, often while it is still quite dark, and then, species by species, the rest of the forest joins in, building into a wall of sound. For a sleeping human, this chorus was a living clue, a rising tide of noise that said the night is ending, the light is almost here. Scientists think birds sing at dawn for good reasons. The morning air is often still and cool, so sound travels farther. It is usually too dim to hunt for insects, so the time is better spent announcing territory and calling for mates. Whatever the reason, the effect for early humans was the same. Long before you opened your eyes, your ears were being gently filled with the news that a new day had arrived. And then, of course, there is the most famous alarm clock in all of history, the rooster. The crow of a rooster at dawn is so reliable that humans have trusted it for thousands of years. But here is the twist that most people never learn. The rooster is not simply reacting to the sunrise. It has its own body clock, ticking inside it, just like yours. In careful experiments, roosters kept in constant dim light, with no sunrise to see, still crowed in rhythm, anticipating the dawn before it came. The rooster does not wait for morning. It predicts it. That is why the loudest crowing often comes in the dark, before there is any sun to see at all, and why the top rooster in a flock reliably crows first, announcing the day to everyone below him. Now, roosters, as we know them, came a little later, after wild jungle fowl were tamed in Asia thousands of years ago. But the principle was ancient and everywhere. The whole animal world runs on these internal clocks. Dogs stir, cattle grow restless, and countless creatures begin to move in the gray light. For a human sleeping among animals or near them, this restlessness was another layer of the alarm, a whole landscape gently coming alive and nudging you awake. But let us go deeper, because there is a question hiding here. If the light and the birds wake everyone at dawn, how did people wake even earlier when they needed to, before a long journey or an important hunt? The answer reveals something remarkable about the human mind. You have probably done this yourself. The night before an early flight, you set an alarm, and then you wake up a few minutes before it rings, wide awake, almost annoyed. This is not luck. Studies have shown that when people expect to wake at a certain time, that cortisol wave, the internal engine, begins to rise about an hour earlier than usual on the morning it is needed. Your brain, while you sleep, can hold an intention and act on it. Ancient humans could quite literally tell themselves to wake before first light, and their bodies would begin the process in the dark, on their own. There is another piece to this, and it changes how we picture the ancient night entirely. For a long time, people assumed our ancestors slept in one long block, the way many of us try to today. But historians studying old diaries and scientists running sleep experiments have found signs of something different. When people are given long, dark nights with no artificial light, many naturally fall into two sleeps. They drift off after dark, sleep for a few hours, then wake for a quiet period in the middle of the night, calm and peaceful, before falling back into a second sleep until morning. Imagine what that means for the ancient world. The night was not a single silent gap. It had a soft waking built into the middle of it, a time to tend the fire, to talk in low voices, to watch the stars wheel overhead. And in a group, someone was almost always half awake. Sleep was shared, not solitary. In a band of people, the light sleepers, the old ones who rest less, the mother listening for a child, formed a natural web of watchfulness. There was almost always a pair of open eyes near the fire, tracking the slow turn of the night. And that fire was a clock too. A fire burns down at a rough, familiar pace. Anyone tending it through the night learned to read it, to feel how much of the darkness had passed by how low the flames had sunk. The stars gave the same gift to those who watched them. The whole sky rotates through the night in a steady, predictable arc. Certain bright stars rise at certain times, and constellations climb and fall like the hands of an enormous clock. People who lived under a truly dark sky, night after night, knew it intimately. They could glance up and read the hour in the position of the stars, then know how long remained until the gray light returned. Even the moon played its part. Its light rises and sets on a shifting schedule across the month, and its phases mark the passing of weeks. A bright moonlit night felt different from a black one, and the timing of moonrise became one more thread in the fabric of ancient timekeeping. Nothing in that world was truly silent or truly still. Everything was moving, and everything was a signal. Now bring it all together and picture a single ancient morning. The fire has burned low to a bed of orange embers. Outside, the sky at the cave mouth has shifted from black to the faintest gray. A first bird tests its voice, then another, and the chorus begins to swell. In the sleeping bodies, temperature is already climbing. Cortisol is already rising. Melatonin is already fading. The body clock, reset by yesterday's light, has been counting down all night long. And so, without a single alarm, eyes begin to open across the camp. People stir, stretch, and rise into the cool blue morning, gathered up by a dozen gentle signals all pointing the same way. This is the part worth pausing on. Ancient humans were not fighting their bodies to wake up. They were flowing with them. There was no jarring buzzer tearing them out of deep sleep, no snooze button, no groggy war against the morning. They rose the way the light rose, gradually and in tune. Sleep researchers today believe this is a big reason many of us feel so tired. We have wrapped ourselves in artificial light late into the night, which tricks that ancient clock and pushes it later. Then a machine yanks us awake in the dark, often mid-dream, before our bodies are ready. Our ancestors almost never had that experience. Their mornings were soft. There is a lovely irony in all of this. We invented the alarm clock to master time, to bend the day to our will. But in doing so, We quietly broke away from the oldest and most elegant timekeeper we ever had, the one that needs no batteries and never fails, the sunrise wired straight into the brain. The ancient human did not need a clock on the wall, because the clock was in the sky, in the birds, in the fire, in the stars, and ticking quietly behind the eyes. So the next time you wake a few seconds before your alarm, or you feel that strange pull to open your eyes just as the room begins to lighten, remember this. That is not a modern trick. That is 15,000 years old and far older. That is the same signal that lifted your ancestors out of the dark, morning after morning, for longer than history can remember. The alarm was never invented, it was inherited, and it is still ringing softly deep inside you every single dawn.